Welcome back to Margaritas in Paradise. Today I have a special guest, John from the UK for Everybody Has a Story. Welcome, John.
Welcome, Tom. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Now, we start out by you introducing yourself and telling us a little background information.
Yeah, I said my name's John, 60 years old. I hail from England, UK, a place called the Midlands, which is like a small market town, if you like, also industrial area. Halfway between London and Birmingham. Many jobs throughout my life, but started off really in a farming background, and then eventually went on to run a business in the transport industry. Stroke recruitment, because I supplied agency drivers, truck drivers, to big distribution companies. And then I decided one day I would, with a friend of mine, because he mentioned Thailand, we just thought we'd come out here. And then when I came out here, I just thought, well, hey, this is the place, really. I want to spend more time.
Right.
So it's been a long journey, but I've been coming here 10 years now, and been out here 7 years full time now.
Wow.
So
yeah, very good.
My first trip here was just over 10 years ago. Came out for late December, came out here for about a month, I think it was. And we travelled around, spent a few days in Pattaya, hired a car and drove all the way down past Hua Hin, Chatham to Phuket.
Right.
And had a fantastic time down there, and then came back, and time went so quick. And then many people, when you get back, you're climbing the walls, you're scratching the walls to trying to come back again. So, you know, it was like a drug, it gets in your system. So that's the start of it.
It's addictive.
Very addictive, yeah. And it was like a feast for your eyes. It was so much going on, you know, an assault on your senses. Where I came from, it's quite rural, and not a lot of people, not much going on.
Right.
And then suddenly you're walking in Bangkok, or you're walking in Walking Street, or around here generally.
Sure.
And there's so much going on, and you can just sit and watch people and never get bored. Yeah, so it was just a complete change, and I loved it. Yeah,
very good. When you first came to Thailand and you stopped here for a few days, Pattaya, and then you traveled around Thailand.
Yeah.
What sold you about Pattaya?
It's a good question. I wasn't sold on it immediately, because in the consequent years I did travel around to many places,
right.
North and south, really looked around, and you're thinking, as you're meeting different people, if I am going to stay here, is this going to be the place for me? So we're all thinking the same. And I just thought, in the end, Pattaya has everything. Yes, it's got all these crazy bars and nightclubs, but you don't have to be a part of that if you don't want to. But it's on your doorstep.
More to do
it's on your doorstep, yeah.
Than the nightlife.
It's on your doorstep if you want it, but you don't have to be there all the time.
Right.
But there's a lot more going on around here.
Sure.
You know, there used to be bowling alleys and cinemas and shopping centres and quad bike rides and zip lines and water sports. You name it, it's all here. Parasailing,
Right.
It's all here, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's got great infrastructure.
You can get anywhere. You can get to Bangkok in about an hour and a half.
Right.
You can go, which I did last week, 50 minutes. I always get confused between north and south here, but I think it's south, past Rayon.
Okay, yeah.
50 minutes, you've got a 8 mile or 8 kilometre stretch of beach, flat road. You could ride a bicycle, and you could be anywhere. It's near Koh Samet, and it's complete change to here.
Sure.
It's complete opposite.
Okay.
And that's
down around Rayon.
yeah, and that's like a bit of therapy. If you want to get away for a few days, there's a few little bars scattered about. There's lovely restaurants. You can go to the islands. You can go to traditional Thai markets. It is just complete and utter change, but just 50 minutes away.
All right. So you'd mentioned you were a farmer, Farmer John.
Farmer John. Well, yeah, there's a story. I was born in Northamptonshire, and it was my grandfather that started the farm off, and then my father carried it on. We were tenant farmers, so we didn't own the farm. We moved into this very sort of bleak house, outside toilet to start with, and no heating. Not for very long, but we managed to fix it all. And he was quite old-fashioned, man of few words, born in 1916. Same age as, same year as Kirk Douglas. He had dairy cattle, a big dairy herd, black and white Friesians, and I think he was very keen on his cows. And so keen on his cows that in fact he named two of the cows after his two sisters. But I don't think they were too amused about that.
And remember their names?
What's his sister? Maurice and Joyce. I don't think they were too amused when they found out what he'd done. But he was obviously thought it was a good thing.
Right.
A couple of stories I remember about him. So he didn't say much, and I remember once we were at the dinner table, and I was only about 10 years old.
Sure.
And he used to call everybody boy, all right, boy. Could be 80 and he'd call you boy.
Sure.
It was just the way they spoke. He said, how you getting on? How you getting on with your new room, boy? At the dinner table. And I said, well, it's okay, but it's a little bit scary. And he said, what do you mean scary? I said, well, when you look out the window, you can see the graveyard with the tombstones. On a foggy morning or an evening, it looks a bit scary. And he looked at me and he said, it's not the dead you want to be worried about, it's the living, which is very true, isn't it?
Right.
So, that was one piece of advice. And I think the only other thing he said was, when I didn't like my dinner one night, was to say to me, well, if you're hungry, you'd eat it. So you can imagine what, he was there, but he wasn't there.
Sure.
So I had to get on with it. Helped out with the harvest, potato picking, and I went to agricultural college thinking I was going to take over. But halfway through it, I got a message to say that the landowner, he was going to sell a lot of the farm. So the farm, it wouldn't be worth farming.
Prior to moving to Thailand, you were approximately 50 years old or so?
Yeah, 50 years old, 49, 50.
You were in the trucking business at that point, or?
I'd moved into running a, if you like, recruitment agency, trucking industry, and then recruited a few people I knew. And within a year, I think I had about 15 drivers. And at the height, I had about 50 drivers, which sounds a lot, but when you talk about the bigger companies, they've got hundreds or thousands of drivers.
Wow. But
that was it.
So I assume 50 years old and you moved to Thailand set you up financially, or?
It did, because I had a stroke of luck. I bought this building and we all moved in, and the business didn't particularly go very well. We lost a couple of major clients for whatever reason. Struggled to rent the other 2 floors out. And then one day I was out, just seen the local planning laws, and they're allowing you, without doing full planning permission, which is an absolute pain in the backside, to convert these offices now into apartments. So I looked into it all, converted it into 6 apartments. That was, if you like, my pension, my income. And then we moved out of there and rented a small place for the office, for the agency.
Right.
And then I thought, well, whatever I do now, at least I've got a pension coming in.
Sure.
And I've got a couple of the pensions as well that I won't get when I'm older. I'm sorted now. I'm sorted.
In essence, you're an entrepreneur.
That's what I did, and that's what set me up to come to Thailand. Because
Yeah.
you do need an income. You can't just come here
Yeah, exactly.
with a pot of money. And what will happen with the pot of money is it just goes down, and you end up with nothing.
You have an empty pot.
Sure,
Right.
sure, yeah.
I don't know how many times, over and over and over again,
Yeah.
people say, oh, I got $1 million. Well, that's all fine and dandy. First of all, you should never tell anybody you have $1 million.
No,
You have to make money on your money. You can't just keep pulling money
No.
from that, and it, all of a sudden it disappears. And we know people that have lost everything here.
you know the old joke, how'd you become a millionaire in Thailand, don't you? And the answer is you bring 2 million.
Yeah, $2 million. The richest people I know in life in general are the cheapest people that I know. Do you miss the UK?
Yeah, I think in certain respects I do. I mean, I never would have thought myself saying I miss the weather, but actually I do.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a strange thing, because here it's the same every day. And obviously this time of year that's just gone, it's so hot, it's almost unbearable, isn't it?
Right.
I do miss, not particularly the winter, but I do miss the spring, summer and autumn, the fresh wind blowing at you, and the trees, the leaves blowing off the trees, and the greenery. I sometimes miss the quintessentially English things, the events that you have during the summer, starting with like Grand National and the boat race and music festivals and Wimbledon and
Right.
cricket, and they're nice things. And sometimes people go out to watch them.
Right.
Even get big screens in parks now, becoming a popular thing. I miss getting stung by wasps and attacked by bees, but there's certain things that I do miss.
Sure.
But generally, there's no perfect place, is there? You're going to miss things.
Are there any struggles that you're with while living here in Pattaya?
I think the weather, for me,
Is it something that's hard to adjust to?
it is. I speak to many people, and some people it doesn't seem to affect them. It's people 10 years older than me, they're out almost every day playing golf, or where they've just got a different engine. Whatever I seem to do, I just feel drained. When it gets cooler in the year, later on in October, November,
Sure.
December, it's just the hot months. I find myself really drained. That's just a personal thing.
How often do you go back to the UK?
I'm going back a bit more often now than I used to. I was here over COVID the whole time, and probably within 7 years of being here, I've only been back probably 8 months. But I'm going back every 5 or 6 months at the moment for 2 or 3 months, just to look at another little project that I'm doing.
Right.
But I only see that happening for the next year, 18 months, and then I'm going to stop doing that.
Sure. Dog or cat?
Oh, it's got to be dog for me. Got to be dog. I mean, I grew up with animals on the farm, as mentioned earlier. I have some fond memories of old sheepdog. The cats, we had cats, but the cats were kept outside. And many mornings you'd turn up and there was a dead bird or a mouse or something. They'd done their job,
Sure.
but they weren't allowed into the house. The dog was a character, a very good character.
Remember a name?
Yeah, Jess. And the funny thing was, I had two sisters, Jane and Judy, and obviously my name being John,
Right.
and the dog being called Jess. So we were the 4 J's. It sounds like a pop band, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The 4 J's. The dog was spent her life in a Land Rover. If ever you couldn't find her, if you started this Land Rover up, she'd come from wherever she was,
Wow.
because she didn't want to miss not going for a ride in the Land Rover.
Well, we kind of covered this a little bit before, but living in Thailand, do you think that you need a car or a motorbike to get around?
I would say, for me, it depends where you live. If you're rural, then you definitely need a car or a motorbike.
Right.
If you can ride a motorbike. And obviously in the rural areas, you got less chance of getting into trouble.
Right.
Around here, it's very different, and I would advise people not to ride motorbikes around here, mainly because you've got the Song Towels, the little buses
Sure.
that we say, 10 baht, you can get kind of anywhere, and they do a decent journey around Pattaya. And you've got the Bolts now,
Yeah, both.
which are very cheap. The Bolt cars, you get a car or a motorcycle. And you haven't got to pay out for a car, you haven't got to pay out for insurance, road tax, all the running costs, and all the blah. So yeah, for me, it's not even worth thinking about.
You're thinking about it. Make sure you give me a big thumbs up. You're hitting that subscribe button. There's a
Good
bell
idea.
right next to it.
Good idea.
Hit that for future notifications.
I'd like to say, if anyone out there is looking, you're the perfect man for the voiceovers, aren't you?
Oh my!
Anyone out there, Tom is available for voiceovers, bar mitzvahs, adverts, radio adverts, TV adverts.
I don't know how many people have told me that. I wouldn't know the first thing about it, in all honesty. But it's
You don't need to with that voice,
lovely.
Tom. You're like Barry. You got Barry White's voice, bass baritone.
all right. How about people that come to Thailand, whether they're traveling to Thailand or staying here as an expat, retiring here? What do you think about medical insurance? Do you think they need it while they're here?
That's a can of worms, that one, Tom, isn't it? A major can of worms, that one. Where do you start with that? If you're coming on holiday, you obviously need to make sure you've got travel insurance.
Travel.
That's the first thing. And that will cover you for major thing. I mean, I'm not a travel insurance or medical insurance expert, but I have been recently to get medical cover. I've just got it this year.
Right.
The later you leave it, the older you are, the more expensive it's going to become, obviously. Right. But yeah, get yourself covered. I would shy away and not do what a lot of people do. And they only do it because they can't afford it, they've left it too late, or they don't have the money. But in fairness, it should be part of your budget, because things will go wrong here. Yes, it's a great place, but you know, it is reality, things go wrong. You need to, if you can, cover yourself. But what a lot of people do, they can't afford it, they self-insure. But they'll put X amount by every month to save.
Right.
Well, that's good until you get something major. Say you get a cancer or something.
Right.
And then you're not talking small amounts of money, you're talking major money.
Yeah.
And then that will, self-insurance is unlikely to cover that. Right. The decent hospitals here are great, fantastic here. The medical care here and the good hospitals is real. But I strongly recommend get something. For God's sake, get something, because if it does go wrong, it will stop a lot of trouble for sure.
Yeah, we just had a do yourself a favor, do everybody else around you a favor.
Yeah, you don't want to be a liability. You don't want to be ringing your family up and saying, "Can you please help me?" How embarrassing is that?
Right. You mentioned a little bit there. What's your opinion on medical care here?
Well, I've got experience of it to a small degree.
Okay.
When I came back from Phuket on a second or third visit, I came back to Bangkok. To cut a long story short, I felt very ill. I was in the same room for about 12 days. So I had a girlfriend at the time that I was seeing, and she took me to just a random hospital. And the bill at the end of the term was something like 85,000 baht, and this is 8 years ago.
Sure.
But I had that dengue fever. I was lucky to get to hospital, and I was lucky that the insurance company paid before I actually left. And that is the thing about insurance companies. You never know how good they are until you need them, do you?
Sure. Ford or Toyota?
For Thailand, I'd probably say Toyota, because maybe the parts are cheaper and all the rest of it. It's all comes from Japan, doesn't it? Motorcycles and cars all come from Japan. Parts, if I was in the UK, probably Ford.
I get asked this all the time about money in Thailand. People are concerned about transferring money to Thailand from whatever country they're from.
Yep.
Do you have any experience with that or recommendations?
Yeah, I do. I've had a couple of issues with it recently. I've been trying to avoid things like Western Union,
Right.
unless it's for emergencies. Great for emergencies.
Sure.
I think MoneyGram's another one for emergencies. But if you're doing it on a regular basis and you want to get the best rate you can,
Right.
and cut out international payments from a bank where you'll get a lower rate and a charge, I use a company, I think it's English, based in England. It's called TransferWise.
TransferWise.
Or it's called Wise now, isn't it? They've rebranded it. But that generally comes within seconds or an hour or so. Occasionally when you get a Thai holiday here, or a holiday in the UK, or I guess in America's the same,
Sure.
you might get a delay a day or so.
Right.
But that's got to be a lot better than how it used to be.
Right.
But you're trying to keep a little bit in your account, just in case you run out of money. Putting a foreign American English card in the ATM, it's do that on a regular basis. You're paying something like 250 baht every time you take it out, and you get a rubbish rate as well. And
credit cards.
credit cards, forget it. So keep those as a backup, but try and use an international transfer company. Get a Thai bank, obviously, a bank account, or just get someone to help you set it up.
Sure.
And then you shouldn't go too far wrong with that.
Right.
If something goes wrong, you need a backup with other cards. And the other thing is, don't keep all your cards in one place.
Right.
Leave them scattered around somewhere where you know where they are. And if you go away, don't take all your cards with you, because if you lose it, you've lost a whole lot,
Sure.
or someone
Good
steals
point.
it.
Very good point.
So so I use Wise, and it works. It works for me.
And check the description below. There's a link for.
I don't get any money for suggesting it, but it's
in all
good
honesty,
for everybody.
If you use the link, you'll get a free transfer up to 500 euro, I think. Too. If you're going to use a credit card, make sure you're using one that doesn't charge any foreign transaction fees. Yeah. What kind of visa do you have?
I've got a retirement visa.
Yeah.
You can get one when you're 50 upwards.
Right.
And I normally have a multi-entry. I think the first time you do it, it's a little bit complicated, but the first time you do it, it costs you around 25, 30,000 baht to get it.
Sure.
And then you just renew it every year. But every time you then renew it, it's only going to cost you about 13, 14,000.
Do you do that yourself, or do you use an agent?
I use an agent in Beach Road, Cambodia Travel. They sort it all out for you.
Definitely check out with Cambodia Travel and other visa agents here in the Thailand area in general, and they'll explain to you all your options.
And it's a lot easier to let them do it than
Right.
do it yourself. Although some people do. Some people do it themselves.
Sure.
You know. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. You'd probably save $100 by doing it yourself.
Well, it's like going and getting your driving licenses done, Thai driving license.
agree.
You can get an agent, or I've done it myself. It's quite straightforward. As long as you take someone who speaks Thai
Sure.
to talk
That's a
to
big-
walk you through it.
Big-
Other than that, you get an agent, but you'll pay another, $30 more maybe.
If you had a friend, a mate in the UK that was thinking about coming to Thailand, you've been talking to him for a while.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would recommend for preparing to come here, whether he was just coming here to visit or maybe even thinking about potentially retiring here?
But I also always recommend coming here just to obviously check it out for
Right.
maybe for a month, just to have a look around. We touched on insurance. Get your insurance sorted out.
Sure.
Most importantly, probably go and get some vaccinations, because there are tetanus and a few other bits and pieces that
Right.
normally 5 years they last.
You know that you can get a dengue fever vaccination now?
I didn't know now.
You need to go get it.
Well, because obviously I had that before, so yeah. And I think you're more prone to getting it once you've got it or had it.
Right.
I think you're more prone to get it again. But I didn't realise you can get a. So you learn something every day.
And I still haven't got it.
I was going to say, have you had yours then?
No.
No.
I just had dengue.
Yeah. Well, the rabies one's a funny one, isn't it? Because you can get rabies amongst many things.
Right.
And it was quite expensive in the UK, so I thought, well, I'm not going to go near any street dogs.
Right.
And the street dogs are strange because in the daytime they're quite friendly.
Sure.
But you walk back at night, and they're like a pack of wolves snapping at you.
Back. Listen to this.
True, yeah. And then if you get bitten, then first of all, don't try not to play with them. If you're dog lovers, try not to play with them anyway, because you don't know what they've got. And if they do bite you, you've got a problem. And I'm
That's a fact.
petting the dogs, I would say,
That's a fact.
even though you want to.
Some reason at night the dogs tend to pack up.
They do, yeah,
And
yeah.
they get very
Aggressive, territorial.
right?
Yeah, they do, yeah,
Good point.
yeah, they do. Yeah.
I have subscribers. There's probably going to be a subscriber that's going to jump on this topic, I have no doubt. And I have a subscriber over in John Tien that I hope his dog situation's better than it was the last time we talked. But
Well, there's a street near us, and we call it Soi Ma. Ma being Thai for dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Soi being street, obviously. So Soi Ma, soy dog. And they all hang around near the temple. Why do they hang around near the temple? Because people go and they give them food.
all right, I want to get into budgeting. Okay.
Budgeting, yeah.
Guys, they come here, and whether they're on a trip, many people come here and they're 2 week or 1 month millionaires,
Yeah.
and they just go crazy. They're
Sure.
spending money left and right,
Yeah.
and then there's people that are trying to live here and they're living on a budget. And I've talked about in the past about people living on $1,000. I always use the dollars because I think most people can equate
Yeah,
that.
sure.
What do you think the minimum amount that you need to survive here?
Well, I'll go by the people I know. And you're right. I think if you're on a basic minimum, and there are people that live on $1,000, which is probably about £800 or £900 in UK.
Right.
That's the retirement amount from the state pension you'll get in the UK,
Okay.
about $1,000. But you are going to live like a cheap Charlie, as they say here.
Sure.
You're going to live in a very cheap apartment. You'll be eating street food. You'll treat yourself now and again. You might be able to go with a lady once in a blue moon, maybe. And you'll be watching your pennies all the time, and you're back to health insurance. Probably won't be able to afford that,
Right.
in fairness. So great until it goes wrong. But you can do it. It's doable,
Right.
but you won't be.
So what's a more acceptable level, do you think?
If you're living here as a single guy, I would say you need at least $1,500, if not $1,700 or $800,
Sure.
to have a good going on. If you've got 2,000 up, even better.
Sure.
Now, if you have a lady here, and the lady is not contributing,
That's a good point.
which is often the case, let's face it,
Right.
you're taking care of her, and she's probably wanting a bit of money for family, which is,
Normal.
we're the great social services, we say, in Thailand. We seem to take care of them. If you've got that situation, then you're going to need probably 1,800, I would say, minimum.
Sure.
Up dollars, that is. And then still, you're not going to be doing perhaps as much as you want to do.
Right. It's easy to spend money here.
Sure, not easy, hard to earn and easy to spend. But if you're lucky enough to be $3,000 up,
Right.
then it will change.
Then
Everything changes.
Yeah. So 3,000 would
Pretty much
live
do.
like a king.
Yeah, and you could probably look after someone else as well. As long as they haven't got any major problems. That sometimes the Thailand's are great. I always think they carry a book of excuses of why you need to help them out. So you've got to be careful of that. But yeah, if you've got $3,000 up, then you shouldn't really have too many problems.
Right. Beer or wine?
Probably beer. I do like wine, a good wine.
Right.
Red wine I try and stay off because I find after a couple of glasses my legs don't work. It just seems to affect me. Red wine seems to affect me, but I like a good white wine. But if I'm out socialising, and let's face it, the standard of wines here is not great, I don't think. So
It's expensive.
very, very expensive. But beer, I tend to stick to the beers, and you can get all sorts of beers here.
Sure.
I like the Belgian beers, but they're strong.
Sure.
Or you just stick with the local Chang, Leo, and Singha, which is fine.
What type of accommodations do you have?
I've had a variety of accommodations.
Right.
Currently, I live in quite a small apartment. Prior to that, I had a condo very much like yourself, but on the ground floor,
Right.
by a pool. Had a couple of balconies, and you could literally step into the pool from the balcony. And it was clean and new and bright. You had a sauna and a gym next door to it, within 20 yards, 24-hour security. And it was during COVID, and it was about 13,000, I think.
Wow.
But since COVID, it's almost doubled. Remember, the prices went right down
Sure.
at COVID.
Sure.
If you were buying or renting, it went down. And since COVID's come and gone, everything seems to, well, certainly renting's gone up.
Sure.
I'm not sure about the prices of real estate. Well, that leads on to when you come here eventually, you just have to decide whether to rent or buy. I've always decided. Well, I met a guy once in Phuket, an older guy, 75 years old he was,
Right.
and he'd been there for 20 or 30 years. And I had a chat with him one night, and he said, "I'll give you." And he said to me, "I've been here 30 years. I've had businesses, ladies, and all the rest of it." He said, "I'll give you 3 words of advice, and if you keep to this, you won't go far wrong in Thailand."
Right.
And he said, "Before I tell you that," he said, I'll tell you another thing. Treat Thailand like a casino. Only put on the table what you can afford to lose."
Right.
Then he went on to the 3 words of advice, and he said, "This applies to everything.
Yeah.
Keep it simple."
So, you mentioned you're over in Central Pattaya, and you have a lot of choices when you come here. You could live right on the beach, or you can live more in the middle of town. Any recommendations when it comes to that? Is that just a personal preference?
No, not really. I think it is completely a personal thing, and you might come here with the view of probably a good idea to have different ladies that you can see now and again, because they will have a different idea than you about living in certain areas. You know, they don't particularly seem to appreciate, maybe is not the right word, but they don't always agree with what your way of living is, although we like it.
Our standards
Are different. Yeah. I like a kind of nice pool, I like a gym. Not that I go to the gym too much these days, but I like it there, all that going on.
Sure.
Sometimes I like going out for meals and things, but they will see it sometimes as, well, we could have spent that money on something else. But
Sure.
you've got to come here with your own views and do your own thing and work it out yourself. And just, it evolves, doesn't it? It evolves slowly.
When it comes down to a relationship, nothing's simple there, right? It's
No,
compromise.
It is, of course it is, and relationships evolve, don't they?
Right.
You know, every 10 years you're probably not the same person, and nor are they. You want different things, it gets complicated. There's the rule you'll see on various channels out here. People say don't spend more than 2 nights with someone, 2 days,
Right.
because
Two-day rule,
you
3-day rule.
start to get attached to them and all that.
Right.
Depends what you want. I think after a while, when you do start to go with quite a few women, it starts to feel after a while like a takeaway. You can't remember what you had 3 nights ago. Right. It becomes meaningless. But then it's difficult to win either way, because what you said earlier was my plan when I first came here. It just never worked out because I...
Fall in love?
No, I don't say I fell in love. I think the not the downside, but what can happen is that you come over here and you get carried away with Thailand. You have such a good time. And then because it's so great when you first come here, the danger is, not the first person, but someone that you quite like, you tend to just go with it because it just complements the great time you're having. If you took her out the equation, if you took Thailand out the equation and just concentrate on her, you might see it differently.
Sure.
But because you're having such a great time, you kind of take your eye off the ball a little bit. Sometimes it's nice to be in a relationship. And somebody once said to me that if you're in a good relationship, there's no better place to be. But if you're in a bad relationship, there's no worse place to be.
Exactly.
So it's difficult to win, isn't it? And having women left, right and centre, which I did to start with, becomes like a takeaway in the end. You can't remember what you had 3 nights ago. You can take the girl out the bar, but you can't take the bar out the girl. I think there's a lot of truth in that. A lot of camaraderie between the girls. They like that going on.
Sure.
They get used to it. Some people say, well, try and go for the girls that work in the banks or hospitals or solicitors' offices.
That's a good point.
And they speak a better level of English, perhaps a bit more like the Filipinos. It does get frustrating here if you go out and you can't speak to anybody.
Right.
They might say, hello, how are you? How old are you? What's your name? And you know what's coming in the next sentence. It's, can you buy me a drink? Well, you don't get a lot out of that unless you're just in for the night.
Sure.
In the longer term, it might be fun for a little while, but when you can't communicate, it's... So you've got the girls that have got jobs, but we also mentioned that it's a different culture here. And it's got quite a class system here, which you don't realise. I never realised it got a class system here.
It took me years to figure that out.
And you're going to get middle-class Thais that have put their daughter and their son through school, private school, and they've spent a lot of money on them, and they want them to move up in the world.
Sure.
So if the son brings back a local bar girl, they're not going to be too amused for dinner or something. And likewise, if the daughter brings back a 60-year-old Falang, as they call it,
Right.
they won't be too amused then either. Well,
Yeah,
why
sure.
can't you find an educated Thai person?
Sure.
So it is a little bit more complicated than you imagine. And then I always say to people, what you sometimes don't realise you're up against. Imagine you're going out tonight, got a buddies having a night out, and then 2 girls walk in, catches your eye, and you look at your buddy and you think, well, they're all right. And then you just watching what's going on. You can hear them talking. You obviously see the way they're dressed. You can hear about what they're talking, how they're talking, what they're talking about, and you can build up some sort of picture
Sure.
of their background, or you might get it wrong, but you've got some understanding.
Right.
The problem is here is twofold. Many times you'll walk into bars or clubs and the same situation will happen, but because you don't speak the language, you don't get any of that.
So with that being said, do you think it's important for a guy living here long term to learn the Thai language?
I would say I've tried a little bit, and I didn't think about going to school here.
Right.
And if you want to do that, I'd say it's of great benefit to you,
Sure.
for sure, no 2 ways about it. But I think the cleverest thing to do is, even if you manage to learn it, is to pretend that you don't. If you listen more, understand it, it's better than speaking.
Yeah,
I'm not
a
so
good
sure
point.
the
That's a good
Thais
point.
like it.
Sure.
And sometimes when you say things, you'll say it wrong because it's very tonal language.
Sure.
And I don't think you'll ever get accepted as being 100% Thai. You'd always be a foreigner. I think the clever thing to do is if you can speak it, is to use it sparingly and understand what's going on. And I think you'll get you're one step ahead then, I think.
Right. What do you think about this area of Pattaya in general, Thailand in general, of meeting people to hang out with, companionship? Is that an easy task, or?
I think it's a lot easier here than it is where I come from.
Right.
Not many people go to particularly bars anymore, I don't think. Back there you can join clubs and things like you can here.
Sure.
But I think people are more welcoming here. And you'll meet people from, it becomes like a United Nations meeting sometimes at these bars. Right. The Americans, Canadians and Germans, and everyone seems to speak English as a default. And also they've got good stories to tell, of why they're here. And they've got time for you, sure. Whereas they haven't particularly back in the UK because they're working or don't go out that much. Easy get involved in pool nights out and tennis clubs and whatever you want to do, golf, right. and yeah, it's nice. And you see people go on a minibus in the mornings with their golf clubs. By the time they've got back and they've had a couple of beers, they're all best of friends and good.
Point. Yeah. How about as far as finding a partner?
If you want to find a girlfriend, then I think you have to box very carefully, right. A bit clever, and I think trying to find someone who's at least got a job and a bit of work ethic, sure. Is probably the way to go, if that's possible. How far you get up the social ladder we talked about earlier, right. I don't know. Depends how old they are. I think the older they are, you stand more of a chance.
Sure.
If they're younger, you probably don't stand too much of a chance. Right. If they come from an educated family.
Exactly.
And it also, if you network, you stand a good chance of being introduced to someone. That's a better version.
Good point too.
Rather than just going out and competing with everybody else on a night out. Because as soon as you've left the bar, someone else comes along and sits on your seat, don't they?
Right, right.
So it's getting that connections and networking or striking up conversation with someone in a bank or in a supermarket or something like that. But then you've got the problem of, do they speak English? So that's another issue to deal with.
Communication's always a big deal.
So that could be a problem.
You have a live-in girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
And you've been together for how long?
Probably about 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. It's but it comes with its own. It's relationships, isn't it?
Right.
It's never easy. But the flip side is that I mentioned earlier, if you go from one to the other, yeah, it's great fun, and we've all done it. But do you want to keep doing it? You're coming over here to start with. It's great. Must say, do it when you first come here.
Sure.
Got to do it, and there's nothing better. Get a pretty girl on your arm, and you get some real stunners, and go to the islands, go around, have some nice meals, do what you want, have loads of fun. But eventually, reality dawns, and it's a question of what do you want? Do you want to carry on doing that? One after the other, one after the other.
Right.
For me, it became, I'm not getting much out of it. On the flip side, you then, once you're in a relationship, you get the other side of the relationship, but where you get problems and hassles. But no way is right or wrong. It's down to you what you want. It either evolves into that or it doesn't. But to start when you first come here, just have some fun and enjoy yourself and do what you want.
Are you one of these guys that go out every night?
No, I probably go out every 2 or 3 nights, and not as mad as I used to be.
Sure.
So I have some set friends that I go and see, like yourself and a few of the other guys.
Right.
But I'm not very regimented. I don't get up and do the same thing every day.
Sure.
Some people I know, you can set your watch by them, what time they ride the bicycle past your apartment. and that's just not me, but
right.
It's horses for courses again, isn't it? It's whatever you want.
How about Thai food? Can you eat Thai food?
I like Thai food. My favourite is tom yum goong, which is like a seafood, almost soupy thing with different...
Seafood soup?
Yeah, I like that with rice. But I find a lot of the Thai food, it doesn't fill you up for very long. Right. Which is why the Thai girls are always eating, aren't they, every hour or two. So I mix it up a bit. Sometimes I have a bit of Thai food, and sometimes I have what they say Falang food.
Do you guys cook any?
No, my girlfriend doesn't cook very much, and the facilities are not that great. We don't have the same facilities as you do back in other countries, so we just sort of occasionally we do something, but normally we just order food in or.
Marmite or jelly?
Well, Marmite or jelly.
Or jam.
Marmite's a funny thing because when I was a kid I hated it, right. but like many things, like olives, I think your taste changes, and as I've got older I like it more now.
Yeah, I get it.
As I do olives. I've gone away from the sweet things, so I'd have to go Marmite now.
Marmite.
But as a kid I hated it. And then in England they have a phrase, or Marmite means you either love it or you hate it. So yeah, it's a strange taste.
Here in Pattaya, do you recommend any restaurants or certain places to go eat?
I can't name many, I must admit. I don't go out to many fancy restaurants anymore. I used to.
Maybe your go-to name
I
restaurant?
do like, if I do go out sometimes at night, if I'm having a night out visiting friends nearer to Beach Road in Pattaya, it's a very nice little oasis of calm, and it's called the Beer Garden. Do you know the Beer Garden?
Sure.
You've got a panoramic view of the bay, and you can watch the sun go down, and they've got nice beers. They play nice music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever.
Yeah. It's my go-to place.
Yeah,
and I'll put a link to the location in the description below.
do some nice food, and it's a lovely start-off place to be before you want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's good choice. Good choice. All right. Don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And also, if you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee, or if you'd like to buy John a cup of coffee, there's a link in the description below for that too. All right. And I'll send him the coffee if you decide to buy him a cup. I know he drinks coffee. So what's your typical day look like?
Typical day. As I said to you earlier, I don't really have a regime or a regime. So I don't even wear a watch, so you can tell straight away. Thai time, I go to bed when I'm tired, and I wake up when I wake up.
Do you find it easy to find things to do here in Thailand?
Certainly in this area, there's lots of things you can do. I play pool, play snooker very badly, and golf particularly badly. The driving ranges as well, if you want driving ranges. And I also play a bit of tennis. I used to play county or county tennis when I was a young kid. We weren't particularly a very good standard, our county, but I've always kept that, and I still enjoy playing a bit of tennis. Yeah, and it's a great social game. You meet nice people. Okay. Same with golf. But there are lots of things to do. Keep you busy. You know, it's all here. As I say, it's all here. Sure. It's entirely up to you what you want to do. Yeah. Perhaps it'd be nice to try some Thai. Sometimes I like some of these Thai places where they play live music. Sure. And sit there and listen to that. I like that. You got to be careful in some of these nightclubs and things where it's mostly Thai orientated and not so many Falang. If you start chatting up the wrong people, it's almost, you can almost hear them thinking, saying, well, why don't you stay down in the Falang area with the bar girls? Why are you coming here to talk to our ladies? Because you do get them around here, separate Thai places. You got to be a little bit careful.
If you had the power to change something here in Thailand, any ideas?
So the gap between the rich and the poor is massive here. Right. And you do feel sorry for people here that are scratching a living. Sure. And they don't get much from the government or for childcare or all the rest of it. So you think, well, how are they ever going to get to the next level?
Meat or tofu?
Oh, meat, I think, meat. But not much of it. I eat a bit of beef sometimes with a Sunday roast or chicken. I eat a lot of chicken, but not too fun though. Soya based, isn't it?
What other countries have you visited?
Oh, crikey. Well, in this area, I've been to Cambodia. I've worked in Greece, I've worked in Spain as a holiday rep. I've been in Holland when I was truck driving, to America, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Miami, West Palm Beach, back to New York. And when I got home, someone asked me what America was like, and I said I couldn't tell you because it is so different. Right. So different place, isn't it? Coast to coast, and it's like different countries within a country.
California's
completely different. Yeah. Been to places in the Caribbean. I've lived in here. I've done many things. Been to Europe.
You're well traveled.
But compared to some people, no. I've done more than some and a lot less than others. But it's good.
I think you're on the high end of above average.
It's good for you to get out and see how other people live, though. It gives you a bit of grounding, doesn't it?
Sure, absolutely.
You know, for sure.
What do you think is one of the best decisions you've ever made in life?
After sitting in a local village pub in England with a friend of mine, unfortunately passed away last year. I was 50, he was 54, I think, and we were listening to some people talking at a bar in the country pub, talking about what they're going to do when they retired, and they're all probably early 60s then. And we looked around and listened, and we thought, not so sure you'd have the energy or the money or the to go and do it. And they were all talking about the future. And they were in their early 60s then.
Sure.
And we just decided to go and do it when we were early 50s. I think that was the best decision I made. In other words, not leave it too late. Seize the moment if you can. If you're just travelling, go and do something. I say that to my nephew now, do it while you're young. Go, and he travels a lot now. Don't keep putting it off and putting it later. Try and do something.
I tell people that all the time. Why ain't you here?
Yeah. Yeah, just don't put it off, you know.
Right. When's the best time to come to Thailand?
Or at least
Today.
travel. Yeah, exactly. Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, or at least
What makes you happy?
I try and find little things. Little things make you happy. You know, every day try and find something, whether it's a sunset or playing with a little 1-year-old. You know, my girlfriend's daughter's got a little 1-year-old girl now. She's beautiful. I love playing with her. I kind of missed out on that when I was, you know, back in the day when I was married and all the rest of it. I missed out on that. Too busy working. Little things like that make me laugh now, make me happy. Playing with her or playing a bit of tennis, seeing the guys out, you know, like yourselves, having a bit of a laugh, walking down the beach. Just the little things, you know, you don't need to have massive goals or I don't want a fancy car, big apartments, just the little things in life.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Do you have anything to add or say for this interview?
Not really, no.
Did we cover a lot?
I think we've covered a lot. Yeah, I think, you know, I just say to people, just it's a big wide world out there and try and seize the moment. And if you've got any ideas or any plans on doing something, you know, follow your dreams, look into it, and at least go and try, you know, try and do something. Even for a short period of time, but just get out there because it's a whole new world there, isn't there? That's what I would say.
Lobster or crayfish?
Lobster.
Lobster.
Lobster, yeah.
Man. Most Englishmen
Say crayfish.
say crayfish.
No,
So
but
that's good. That's good. So what do you think about the lobster here?
They always seem to be, everything seems to be bigger here, doesn't it?
So no claws.
Well,
We have what they call spiny back lobster, and they're long antennas. And then
Well, you can see I don't-
have like Maine lobster, which are, and you can buy lobster, but it's imported. But it's not caught locally.
I think I've normally sat down and someone spooned it out for me, I think.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a challenge, isn't it?
Sure.
Chopping, smashing it all up. And there's a
You
lot,
know,
lot of work for not
It's
a
good.
lot.
And John, I definitely appreciate you coming and
You're very welcome.
and, giving your time and advice, and to everybody has a story. And I'm hoping we're going to have lots of questions, and I hope you follow along. Maybe you won't. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I should have a look at it.
You know,
I'd not particularly like
feel free
to.
to answer questions. People are going to have questions.
Yeah, if they've got any questions.
You know.
It's only my opinion at the end of the day. It's fine.
And
Yeah, welcome.
And I do appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.